Welcome, bienvenidos, welcome aboard. My name is Steve Colón, CEO of Bottom Line, proud Vice President of the NCAN Board of Directors. And I am honored and humbled to be asked to speak about what it will take to achieve equity in college access and success. And when they reached out to me, when Xenia reached out to me, she said, I need you to talk about how we're going to achieve access and success, and you have 10 minutes. And I said, what am I going to do with the other 8? We got this. When I was growing up, my father, seen here with his classic 1980s Magnum PI mustache, used to have all these consejos, these little bits of advice that he would use to try to make sure that his young boys would grow into be responsible men. These are my brothers and I. Now, I only show this picture because I don't know what's going on with my older brother's head, how it's just like hanging there. Like, why? He was in the room with us. What is... Seriously, what's happening here? All I can say for those of you who are young is that that was the 80s, and the 80s were not great. Anyway, my father learned these consejos from his mother and his grandmother, his abuelita, and I think he thought that telling them to me was some rite of passage, right? But the fact remains, like many kids, I didn't pay much attention to when I was growing up. I either was frustrated by them because he usually said them after I did something he disagreed with, or I laughed because they did not translate well into English. But now that I'm a father of 2 young boys, and I mean energetic young boys who are either climbing a wall or not sitting still, I force them to sit down and think about the wisdom that they impart. And though my father passed about 9 years ago from pancreatic cancer, I can still hear his voice as I bore my children with his words of advice. So as I sat down and thought about what is it going to take, what am I going to talk about today, one of those consejos, one of those words of advice just kept echoing in my head. My father used to say, si quieres comer pescado, tiene que mojarte el trasero. If you want to eat fish, you're going to have to get your bottom wet. Now, you may have heard some people giggle when I said that in Spanish because the real phrase in Spanish uses a less publicly appropriate word for bottom. And Xenia kept saying, say it. I'm like, I'm not going to say it. But if we want to eat fish, we're going to have to get our bottoms wet. If we want equity and justice, we're going to have to work for it. And that's what we're here to talk about. In this case, achieving equity is truly hard work. Alex talked all about it. We are talking about changing a system that is widespread and deeply entrenchedly embedded in racism and oppression. And many of the people that we are going to need to help us change this system have been knowingly or unknowingly benefiting from that system their entire lives. We are so entrenched in that system that we don't know what solution to bring to which problem. We're often hammering in a screw, we're trying to screw in a nail. But if we want equity, if we want to eat that fish, we are all going to have to get our bottoms wet. So the good thing is that there's a way forward. There's a path forward for this. There's plenty of ways that we can look for it. I am hopeful about the future. If we look at the history that is before us, there are numerous successful examples of systemic change that we can draw benefit from. If you look at the civil rights movement, if you look at the women's suffrage movement, if you look at the abolitionist movement, they lay out for us a playbook of what to do to how to achieve equity, real equity. Not a Monday night quarterback type of playbook, but you get my drift. Inside of each of those historical examples lay 3 common threads of what it will take to be successful that we have to follow. The first is that systemic change requires a broad and diverse community of people united around a single goal. That means that in order to be successful, we have to work across our lines of difference. It doesn't matter if you're higher ed or K through 12 or college access. It doesn't matter if you're in philanthropy. It doesn't matter if you're a liberal Democrat or a conservative Republican. It doesn't matter if you're black or brown or white. This work demands that we reach across those divides and find common cause. No successful change in history has ever occurred without united, broad, diverse community of advocates doing what they can inside and outside of the system to drive change. So if we want to be successful, y'all are going to have to get yourselves wet. We have to reach across the divides that we see. We have to be proactive. Let's focus on the things that unite us. Let's be open to ideas regardless of where they come from, because nobody has the real solution. Nobody knows what it's going to take. And let's be motivated by the fact that equity is an issue that transcends borders. But you've got to put in work. You've got to reach across that divide. We can't just sit back and wait for somebody else to get active. You got to get active. We all have to put that work in. The second common thread that will help us achieve equity is that this movement needs leadership, both inside and outside the system, who are challenging the status quo, pushing against inertia, and showing what's possible for our students when we move those barriers out of the way. These are the proof points of possibility that motivate not just our actions, but inform our solutions. It might be controversial in this room to say, but I'm talking about demonstrating that all of our students can achieve at the rate at the most privileged high-income students, not feeling like we won something when we get our students to go to the national average. We've got work to do. This is serious. And when I think about it, when I think about what we need to do, this means that we have to start talking about 4-year graduation rates, not 6. That we have to start communicating the real cost of college, not whatever it is those award letters are trying to communicate. We need to avoid the soft bigotry of reduced expectations. For us in this room, this demands that our organizations and our programs demonstrate verifiable impact. This goes decidedly further than just being able to talk about the qualitative impact that your students have when we happen to be able to get them to pass the line and we remove barriers. Our students and their communities deserve nothing less than our obsession with what is measurable and proven to be successful. Solutions that will helpfully truly make them realize their talent and their potential. And then it requires that we take those proof points of possibilities and we show that to people who are too entrenched in or benefit too greatly from the current system to get off their own bottoms. Make no mistake about it. Our obligation to equity is our insistence on excellence. The last and most commonly overlooked thread common to those historical examples, is that this movement, this work, must include the people who they themselves have experienced educational inequity and educational injustice. Those people who have personal proximity to this issue are quintessentially important to any solution. Their personal experience with educational inequity gives them a unique vantage point from which to view any of the problems that we're dealing with. It is Pollyannish at best and blind privilege at worst to think that we can achieve educational equity without the input and the leadership of those people who have not only fought this fight but won. So I challenge each and every one of you, think about the leadership in your organizations. Think about the leadership on your boards. Think about the leadership in this room tonight and in our movement. and ask yourself a simple question. Do we have enough voices, critical voices? And are we amplifying the voices of those individuals for whom this inequity is their lived experience? And if the answer is no, like it is, honestly, for far too many of our organizations, then y'all got work to do. We got to work towards diversity and inclusiveness right now. So there you go, 3 common threads to this movement. 1, we need to have a movement that ensures that we have a broad and diverse community of advocates all working towards the same goal. 2, we need proof points of excellence that motivate and inform solutions. And 3, our movement needs to be shaped and led by the people who have personal proximity to the problem. That's the way we find success. But before I go, I have one more challenge for you folks. While we are working on driving large-scale system change, because that is our mandate, we must also work as a stopgap for the current inequitable system. We must make sure that any student that we work with, any student that we have the privilege of working with, we hold and we support them through their full process. That is the work that we've been doing at Bottom Line for over 20 years. We need to support each and as many students as we possibly can with a knowledgeable, caring advisor. An advisor who has the training and the skills to build authentic one-on-one relationships based on trust and consistency. No tool alone, no technology alone is going to be able to come close to what an advisor who is properly trained and ready to do this work can possibly do. And for over 20 years, we've been doing that at Bottom Line. In that time, we have seen over 3,500 students graduate from college within 6 years, and that's a historical graduation rate of 77%, pretty damn close to their peers. So it is our obligation to have a dual focus, to look both at the system change and supporting students who are going through that system so we don't lose a single one. This is hard work. These are tough fish to catch. So let's all get our asses wet. Thank you.